Hello students, and welcome to the week 7 example 4 video. So you will see that example 4 and example 1 are very similar, with example 4 just being a bit more complex. That is because, like I mentioned in earlier weeks, this was the homework last year. So yeah, so if you could do that one, then this one is a good next little step to make it just a bit more complex. In this week, the only real new work is revolving. So yeah, so you really shouldn't struggle this week. But let's get started. Okay, so for this one, I'm also going to start again with the right view because I want to revolve the part around the y-axis. So let's get started. I don't know why this looks so extremely weird. Yeah, no idea, but anyway, I'm using my old part, so I just remove that or suppress that feature or all those features. So yeah, let's get started. On the right view, okay, so I'm going to start with the profile and I'm going to leave the center hole. I'm going to leave that out, and I'm also going to leave out the, I sort of want to call it spoke cutouts, or sort of like rim cutouts if you want to call it that. So I'm just going to make the basic outer shape, and then also the chamfer I'm going to add as a chamfer later and not put it, build it into the sketch itself. Okay, so I'm going to use the profile tool, and then I'm going to start over here. And technically it's not necessary to have a line here when I'm revolving around, but it's just better to have something that's nice and anchored. Okay, so I'm going to go in, upward, outward, upward, in, down, and then across. And then it's also the same on both sides, so I'm going to only create one and then mirror it. Okay, so that width, let's quickly see on the sketch. Now, since there are a lot of dimensions that are close to one another, it's important to look carefully. So the 20 refers to the distance over here and not the distance over here. So the 25 refers to this distance because you can see it goes sort of like past. So this is then 25. Let me just quickly zoom out here a little bit. There we go. So speaking of the 20, I can add that in here now. That should be 20. Then my total width is 50. So I add this at the bottom here. Did I not say 40? No, it should be 50. There we go. Okay, zoom out again. Okay, it looks a bit short and fat, but that will get fixed quickly when we start adding the vertical dimensions. So we're going to ignore the hole for now, since we're going to be putting that in later. The reason I want to put that in later is that is typically a feature that would just that one feature might change later and so on. So then you don't want to go in and mess with your sketch later. Having that as a individual feature is a good thing in your feature tree, because you can just edit the one thing and not mess anything else up. Okay, so we're going to ignore that one and move along first to this dimension. So this one's already the correct points, so that must be 400 divided by 2. So you will also see that the dimensions are added as diameter dimensions, because after it's revolved it's technically a circle. But here it's just now a linear dimension for that profile. Okay, we're going to move this also down a bit so that it's all out of the way. Okay, so this one is 400 divided by 2. Then we're going to add to this one. So you also see, I've got some questions this week. When you use rapid dimensions, then sometimes in Xcel, for instance, if I click here, think you want to do this dimension, and then you're like, oh, it's incorrect, I'll start over. But if you're in rapid dimensions and you've only selected one thing, go and select the other thing you want, and then usually NX figures it out. If it still doesn't figure it out, then manually go say, oh, I want to put in a linear dimension. But now if I select this, then it realizes, oh, you don't want to measure the line, you just want to measure from the line to the other line. Okay, so that will be 460 divided by 2. There we go. Now it looks quite funny, but we'll fix that in a moment. Just quickly see, so yeah, my other dimensions aren't showing, so you can just, if something's not showing here, can just drop down here and then add them in yourself. Okay, so I'll just stick to rapid dimensions for now, and then from this bottom to this top, I believe it's 500 divided by 2. Okay, let me zoom out again. Okay, yes, that's the basic profile. Sketch fully constrained. Lovely. Okay, it's just going to complain about that because I have a sketch of this original feature group. Okay, finish. So now I can, I almost forgot, I actually need to mirror that around. So mirror tool, connected curves, I click to them and they all went around this one. There we go, sketch fully constrained. Okay, so now I can go and revolve this. So I want to go region boundary curves because that's just the easiest. It's this entire shape that I want to revolve, and then around this vector, or that one, doesn't matter. It's that axis, and then around this point. And let me quickly just zoom out a bit. There we go, that looks like what we want. So I'm going to say OK, save. Okay, so now I first need to quickly add these sketches on the front that I'm going to use to make those cutouts. I'm also going to add the point for the hole as well, and the chamfers I'll add at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put that on the XZ plane, and then I'm just going to hide this body so that it's out of my way, and this sketch as well. Okay, so first I'm going to add this single point, and then I can add the other parts. Okay, so you have a few ways of doing it. You can firstly just make a triangle, but then add your edge blends later, but then you have the possibility of breaking your shape. So I'll just avoid doing that and just create that now, but I'm going to use fillets though in my sketching environment. Okay, so just a simple triangle. I'm going to say that this and this point is in line with the vertical, because you can see that the top one is in line with the vertical axis. Then I have my angle between these two. So you see it wants to go that angle, but I'll go between these two lines, then it gives me the correct one. So that's now 15. And then we quickly see, so the distance from the bottom over here is 180. So from the x-axis to this point is 180. Okay, so now I only have one auto dimension, and that is, you see, okay, it's this guy over here. So let's quickly just see. So there you can see I put in a note at the bottom. It says note the, in quotes, spoke lines should rather be well, whatever you want to call it, point to the midpoint. So these lines meet at the midpoint. So that's why it's better to add the fillets in here now rather than trying to use edge blends at the end, because if we have these now, I'll move to quick, I'm going to click C, and then I can see I'm on coincident. There we go. So now if I cut this out, then essentially I will have this like point where nothing sort of exists, and then it could break my model because it then has a bunch of essentially points where nothing exists all coming together, and it can confuse NX. So rather just add the fillets in now, and the fillets are, or they have a radius of 10. At least do the bottom one in the sketching environment. So radius 10, enter. There we go, but I mean, while we're at it, we can just as well do the rest. 10, and I think I forgot to type that one in. I'll quickly just zoom in and actually type it in. 10, there we go. And now, let me see, this center point constraint that I added in earlier was now deleted because the line is no longer, that center point no longer exists. So I'm just going to re-add this. There we go. Now it's fully constrained. It's all happy. Wonderful. I need to finish and just unhide all of this. So now my sketch is sort of gone, but that's fine. We can just extrude, click on the sketch, Okay, no, so it doesn't want to figure it out itself. So let me just hide that again, region boundary curves, and say that, unhide it. And now I want it to first of all subtract, and then I want to go through all on both sides. So we quickly say show result. There we go, that's what we want. Okay. And then I can pattern this feature as extrude. I want to circular pattern it around this axis and then around this center point. And just unhide all of this, and then I want to go count and span. So I know I have how many? 4. I have 8 of them, and it goes all the way around. So count and span 8 and 360 degrees. That looks correct. Okay. Right, so now all that's left is the hole and my chamfers. And just quickly also check here. Yes, so let me just quickly check there. Oh, I see I misspoke earlier with that 5 radius at the top. Over here I called it a chamfer. It was not a chamfer, it's an edge blend, because I got confused when I didn't see a dimension for the edge blends over here. So it's all 5 radius edge blend, not a chamfer. So apologize for that. Okay, so we can quickly add all of them. Quickly see over here, edge blend with a 5mm one, and it's all just reset it. It's all on standard, all on circular. If we have anything that's not standard, we will tell you. Okay, so just select all these edges and quickly check. It's actually all of the edges except for the hole that we're going to add later. So I'm going to quickly just to the side and then box select all of the edges and just say show result and see if that looks correct. So it got the so it got the inside edges, the outside edges, it got all of them. Okay, so that's a very easy way to do it. If you first put in the hole, then you'll just have to go unselect the hole from all the ones that we selected there. So the only thing left then is then that hole. So we already put in a point a bit earlier, so let's go and say hole feature and just hide our body so that we can actually see it over here. Let's say okay, that I put a point on the origin, so that was actually unnecessary, but anyway, let me just unhide the body. Okay, so quickly see here, let's select this body. Okay, so it's complaining because the hole is inside, so we need the point to be on the edge. Let's quickly see if it will allow me to use the edge of this line. No, okay, so we will have to actually add a point on this face. So let's quickly go do that. Very simple, just click on the face, point on there, fully constrain. Okay, finish. Now we have a point that we can use. I'm just going to hide those sketches. Hole feature on that point. It has a diameter of 75. Everything else is just standard. Let me just make sure it's reset it all. So that point 75, and then I want my hole to be a hole depth. So I'm going to say over here through body. So then it doesn't really matter, and there we go. So that hole goes all the way through now. Okay, and that is the whole part. So yeah, very simple. It's just be careful to add the correct things, read properly, not put in a chamfer instead of an edge blend. Yeah, so very, very simple part. Go try it yourself, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the videos. Cheers.